Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaelyn. I make academic related videos, and today I'm going to be talking about why I decided to pursue a master's degree in the UK versus in the United States. So I went to UCLA for undergrad. I studied history and African American studies, and I also produced an honors thesis that focused on enslaved persons in Virginia that ran to the British during the Revolution. Most of my research pertains to enslaved persons in the British Atlantic, and I'm trying to kind of navigate my research into the field of legal and social histories of enslaved women. The reason I wanted to get into what it is that I research is because the programs that I applied to were specifically focused on the things that mattered to me. So I applied to two different types of programs. I applied to Masters in Human Rights and then Masters in U.S. History or Masters in American History. Although my research pertained to the British Atlantic and ultimately the British Empire, the researchers that I wanted to work with and the advisors typically fell within the field of American history, U.S. history, or legal history. If I had applied in the United States, it's possible that I would have applied and tried to work with professors that crossed, that were interdisciplinary between the history department and the African American studies or Black studies departments. But ultimately why I decided to study in the UK was because of access to the sources that I needed, one, but two, because it seemed like a better time investment as well as financial investment for my academic future. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I just want to quickly touch on what my overall goals are, so that way I can kind of bring it back to why I thought that the master's in the UK would be more beneficial for me than a master's in the US. Ultimately, I want to go to law school and get a PhD, so I'm going to be doing a joint degree program with a JD PhD, so that way I can later become a legal historian. I ultimately would like to end up back in academia, but I do not want to give up my dream of actual legal practice. I have a strong dedication to social justice, political activism, and to civil rights. Ultimately, I would like to become a constitutional or civil rights lawyer and also produce scholarship within the realm of legal history. So the reason I decided that the UK was going to be the best option for me to get my master's was because ultimately, when I looked at those programs that I was going to be applying to, I didn't technically need a master's, but I thought that it would be beneficial. I studied abroad at Cambridge last summer, and I studied abroad at Cambridge between my junior and senior year at UCLA, and while I was there I was able to take law classes. I took one literature class and kind of decided that I really liked the model of the British schooling system, or at least the Cambridge schooling system, and decided that I really wanted to apply to the masters at Cambridge and at Oxford, and then I also wanted to apply to programs in human rights, so that way I had two kind of pathways that could lead me either way. Ultimately, the reason I had decided between two different types of programs is because if I had gotten into the human rights programs, that would lead me down the path of eventually doing international human rights and then kind of applying those principles to civil rights in the United States. And then the reason I wanted to apply to research programs is because it would lead me kind of in the direction of legal historical scholarship. So those were the kind of justifications for those two types of programs. For the human rights programs, I applied to the University of London School of Advanced Study and the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies, or SOAS. And then for research, I applied to Oxford and to Cambridge. As I said before, I technically didn't need a master's. I thought that it would be a good stepping stone in order for me to kind of specialize my work and also to make myself a better candidate for those PhD programs that I wanted to get into or the law schools that I wanted to get into. So the difference between the UK and the US master's programs, as I saw it based on my research, was mostly focused on what you wanted to get out of it. If you're somebody that wants to teach high school and wants a teaching credential, then the US master's system is probably best for you, primarily because it is practicum based, and also you're going to get TA experience and you're going to be able to receive your credential. If you're more of a researcher and you want to end up in a PhD program, the UK may be a good option for you because most of those programs are 9 to 12 months. My program at the University of Oxford is going to be 9 months. And ultimately I will have 3 classes and a dissertation. For me, research was more important. Being able to go to the British Library, have access to court documents in Britain was more important to me than actually being able to TA and be in the United States. Also, I want to talk about the financial investment. When you go to a master's program, as any professor will tell you, the master's programs at the major universities in the United States are kind of their cash flow. They have master's students that come in and you don't get as much financial aid. You typically have to take out loans, and it's 2 years of tuition, living costs, and there are limited grant opportunities depending on the school that you're at. And based on the ones that I was looking at, there just wasn't enough funding for the humanities and for my specific area. So because of a multitude of things, I decided that the US schooling system was actually going to be more expensive to me than going and taking out loans to go to the UK. So on the financial side, I just wanted to cover this a little bit because it is important, and it was a significant reason for me deciding to study at Oxford instead of trying to apply to some of the US programs. Ultimately, the tuition at a big institution, I'm going to give the example of Harvard, is around $50,000 for the tuition for a graduate program. Not to mention, you have to pay 2 years of that, plus living expenses, plus books, plus travel. And then when I actually did the math, going to Oxford overall is going to cost around $67,000 overall. That's living expenses, travel, tuition, etc. And that includes the accommodation at your college and your fees. So ultimately, when I was trying to decide what the best investment was going to be for my future, I decided that being at Oxford for 1 year, for one, it was going to be a better financial investment, and that 2, it was going to diversify my application and allow me to have better opportunities to get into the programs of my choice. Ultimately, I just wanted to give myself the best opportunity to work with the best professors in my field, and I found the perfect advisor for me at Oxford. And ultimately, my advice to you is to look at my videos on how to apply to Oxford for the humanities. I don't think that my videos are entirely applicable over all fields. Ultimately, you're going to have to decide which schools are best for your field of interest. Ultimately, Oxford has a great US history program. The Rothermere program is world-renowned and is known for American and US history. So that's kind of why I decided that Oxford was the best pick for me. I did get into the human rights programs, but I decided that research was more important to me. So the big takeaways are that I chose Oxford, and the reason I decided to not study for my master's in the US was 1, because of cost, 2, because it was a good investment in my future, and 3, because it was going to be a good opportunity to study in a new place with new advisors and to also widen my net of connections. I strongly believe that networking is very important. Every single job that I've ever gotten was based on networking connections, and I think that they've helped me greatly. And everybody that I've met at UCLA, everybody that I've worked with, have been so helpful in helping connect me with people throughout the world in my field of research. So for them, I'm forever grateful, and they have really taught me that those connections are important, which is why I want to go to Oxford and make more connections that'll hopefully be lifelong and will help me in the future. So if you have any other questions about applying to Oxford or why I decided to study at Oxford, please leave me a comment down below, or if you have any other video suggestions, I'd love to hear from you guys. I've received a couple emails from subscribers that say that the videos are actually very helpful for them and they are also interested in research and graduate school. I do have a couple other videos prepared that I'm going to be filming sporadically, but if you have any suggestions that you'd like me to add to that list, I'd love to hear from you guys either by email or by comment. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more videos of the like, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.